People I Know show live today. Curt Carstensen and Chuck Carstensen. Social distancing, of course. Chuck, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Curt.
People I Know show live today.
Sorry, I got my the share active. I'm watching myself on another screen.
Well, good job. We're testing out all the technology. And I think that's going to work into the title of today's episode, Pivot, Progress, and Prosper. As I've been trying some new things lately, you've been trying some new things lately, and we're going to get into that conversation. Hopefully, for everyone that catches the live talk today and the podcast in the future, that what people can get from this is right now things are different, but we can do different things and make good use of that time. But I want you to share a story, Chuck. I heard that very recently, I guess not so recently, there's no snow on the ground now, you went skiing for the first time. I was going to go skiing for the first time with your stepdaughter, Samantha. That was the plan. And then I went on a trip. Things got busy. The snow was melting. The pandemic started, and it never happened. But then I heard that you got to go. So please explain that little adventure for you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So for spring break this year, instead of traveling far away, we went up to Lutsen, and my stepdaughter, she loves skiing and she's very good at it. So it's Melissa, myself, and Lucas and her, and she brought a friend. And basically there, we were there for a couple of days. You check in at 9 or 9:30, get your equipment if you rent it, and can ski till about 4:30, and then they shut it down. So I thought, I should maybe try skiing. And I went to check what lessons are. And they seemed expensive for somebody who'd probably just try skiing. It had to be $100 or something, but it was like maybe $90 if you go a little bit later, but that was between 1 or 2. And I was like, okay, then it's almost done with the day. So I thought, okay, I'll just watch videos on YouTube and figure out how to ski by watching all these beginner tips on YouTube, and look pretty easy. I mean, you probably watch YouTube to set up some of the stuff you're doing now. And I know, like my kids, and especially Samantha, she watched YouTube to learn how to cut her hair, with people staying in there. I did a video early today with my hair, like after workout, standing up like 6 inches. It looked like 6 inches.
So you talked about my new haircut, which we can talk about in a little bit. I want to know about your skiing and your YouTube education.
Yeah. So it sounded all good. And then they took me, I got my equipment, seemed like forever. Got it. Lucas got his. We went to what she said, this is the easier hill there. If you look at Lucas, if you ever go there and look up the hills, there's some big hills to a guy who's never skied, and maybe that hill was okay. And I got all geared up, like I'm ready for this. And then she's like, wait, don't go straight down the hill. You're going to go too fast. So I started going. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I just quick fell down. Then it took a while to get back up because she said I shouldn't get the sticks. Like I don't need them, but I think when you fall down a lot, you need your sticks if you go skiing to help you get back up. So I figured out I'll like mangle my body to get up, and then I started again, and then I go sideways. She's trying to say how to shift the weight, and I saw that in a video. It's just harder doing in real life. So I go sideways, like into like the embankment where there's trees, but I fall down in time. I don't hit a tree. I'm like, this is not going well. Please just get me off the hill. How am I going to do this? So by that time, Lucas just zipped down there like he's been skiing all his life, and
Lucas is your 8-year-old.
8-year-old, and he skied like a couple times, maybe 3, and he just. And Samantha was helping me. To her credit, she was trying to. I'm sure she did, because I'd get up and I'd fall down. I'd get scared that I'm going to go too fast, and then like if you get closer at Lutsen to wherever you're at, there's like cliffs. Like if you didn't know how to ski and just kept going, you just fall to your death, I think, or maybe fall in a snowbank and just break a few bones. So I got down to more level ground at one time. I literally had to I created a new move. It was a good workout. Like I crab skied down where I was kind of on my back with, legs elevated. There's different workout moves, or I don't know. I can't do it on this video, but I got down there. I was like skiing, but on my butt, but kind of butt skiing, but kind of lifting myself up. That's what I did. So I got down the hill. Then when I got on kind of flat ground, I stood up, and it was just a little decline, and I skied a little bit, and then it's like, okay. But then when I got too flat and I had to get on the ski lift, because she's like, the only way is you got to go up the ski lift and get ski patrol to come and get you and take you down. So some lady had to borrow me her stick so I could get through the pass. You got to show your pat, not show it. You got to just go through it. And I got on there, and that was the best part of skiing, being up there looking at all the hills. And then Lucas, my 8-year-old, when we had to get off, he said, "Okay, Dad, you got to kind of lean forward. So when you get off this thing, you just ski right off." Like, okay, I think I can do this. Sure enough, we kind of leaned forward. I just wiped back out on my back, and there goes Lucas. I was like, okay, I'm done. So thankfully there were workers working on that ski lift, and I just sat there for a while, and I'm like, hey, how do we call down? And some guy was going to go down anyway, probably for lunch or coffee break. He's like, hey, you can ride down on my snowmobile. And then, when you get down to the chalet, everybody's looking at you like, did he get hurt? No, I'm just a big buffoon who can't ski. So yeah, that was it. That was my skiing experience. I think I will try again on a more bunny hill, like locally, but I don't know. I did not have a good experience.
Will you watch more YouTube videos to learn how to ski before the next time you ski?
I would just go to like Taylor's Falls is our closest ski place. And I would probably go there and practice that. They have more smaller hills for somebody like me there, or I'll just say I'll never go again. I don't know, one of the two. So
you can't just give up.
I could. I don't know.
Well, maybe. Let's get into the main.
Have you skied before?
No, I haven't. That's you. I was planning to do it this winter, and then you had that experience before I did. So I wanted you to share that story because
yes,
I'll try to learn from you and be a little more prepared.
Maybe I should cross country ski, not downhill. One of the two. I don't know. We'll try it again.
Yeah. Pivot, progress, and prosper. Those were the 3 words. You did a live video today preparing that, we're going to be doing this right now. And I want to know what you mean by that and really relate it back to someone else. What can they use those 3 words right now? Pivot, progress, prosper, to make use of this time that I think for a lot of us, we've been out of our routines and we don't know when or if we'll ever get back into that old routine.
Yeah. So I actually stole that from Michael Bernoff. He did a live podcast, kind of like we're doing now, but I think it was just him and people are asking questions. And he did that a couple of weeks ago on his Average Sucks community page. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Because they're talking about the PPP plan. If you're a small business and with COVID-19 going on, you could, apply for government loans. And then like earlier this week or last week, they ran out. And now maybe they're passing a bill for the PPP plan where you get some kind of assistance. And anyway, he was talking about his PPP plan is pivot, progress, prosper. So it's going to mean different things to different people. But most somebody who's got a business, somebody who's working on a business, probably somebody who's, wanting to make a shift based on everything that's going on. A pivot is just, changing directions, obviously. So for me, and I mentioned this a little bit on the video I did this morning, for real estate, we didn't pivot much because what's happening in real estate is like, hey, you got to do video, got to do 3D tours, you got to do live virtual tours at your houses, which we do. Like if you're on our Facebook page, I couldn't figure out how to get this to my team page right now, but we'll maybe figure out how to copy it over later. On there, we do YouTube videos touring the house. We do Facebook Live videos touring the house. We do 3D tours. We can meet, remotely on a Zoom conference call. We already did that. So there wasn't like a pivot for us to do in real estate. We're already doing that. But what I was trying to pivot on mostly is like working on my mindset even more. Like, me, and I work on that all for several years. But even when you're working on things like that, can always probably tweak it or pivot a little bit. So my biggest focus during COVID-19, which I was already doing before I heard this video from Michael, is really my pivot was really trying to get to the fundamentals of getting my mindset, my overall mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health, all like the most aligned I can be during this time, because otherwise it's really easy to get down. So my pivot is, again, it's something I was doing, but to do it even deeper, to be stronger and better at it. That's basically my pivot to help me continue to make progress. Because when you get knocked down, especially if you have a business, it can be like super detrimental. And I'm sure that's something we'll talk about throughout the whole plan, but you can ask any questions you have based on what I said so far.
With the real estate, let's go into that now specifically. You've been able to keep on doing as much as you can, maybe tweak it a little bit, but are people still really interested in buying houses right now, or do they feel like they can't? Like, how has that changed? You can do what you'll do, but are people really into it?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think if we're live streaming and I can't see it, but maybe I don't have my Facebook page open up. I don't know if you do. If people have questions, they could probably just type a question and you can ask the question, like when it pertains to real estate specifically, like, hey, what should I do or what's happening? I think there's just a lot of misinformation. Now, real estate is local. So there is probably some local areas, states, counties, or whatever that probably can't go look at a house. I think that's probably the case in some areas in New York. And again, I'm going to mostly focus on local, but in most areas, real estate's an essential service. So we can show houses, sellers can sell, people can move, buyers can buy. As far as like the early part of COVID, I'd say, that second week, third week of March, it was almost normal activity, like as many showings year over year, as many sales. And then they started talking about more whatever quarantine, lockdown, shutdown, stay at home. We prefer stay at home and enjoy our family over quarantine, shutdown, lockdown. I try not to use those words too much. But with that, then the showings dropped about 50%. So year over year, last year to this year, probably 50% less showings starting that, later part of March up until now, which is almost about the last month. Sales, though, pending sales are probably down 30% year over year. I'm guessing when the statistics come out for April, they were down 15% year over year in March. And what that means, because people hear percentages and they think, well, real estate went down 15% or 30%. No, that many less sales went under contract. The reason for that isn't that the market's poor. In fact, year over year in Minnesota, in most areas, the market's up 3%, 5%, which is technically in the history of real estate, normal appreciation is about 3%. So we're seeing normal appreciation even in March and April. But the reason for it, just less people are on the market. Some people are scared of COVID. They don't want people coming through their houses. So they're not on the market yet. That delayed some of our sellers from going on the market. And we're slowly getting some of them to go now, or some of them are waiting a few more weeks. I think the people we were talking to coming into this that were going to do it before, we talked to them, whatever, last fall, January, February, they're all listing their house. They had a planned move. They're all moving forward, but maybe a little bit slower. Not as many new people are like, hey, I'm going to decide to move now. So I'd say a lot of those people have decided. A lot of those people who probably weren't deciding now didn't decide. And that's the reason listings are down. But economy, is different than real estate right now, as far as the economy is probably poor for a lot of people or headed into a recession. But real estate, because it's supply and demand, people do need houses or want houses. It's just less listings, but there's still a decent amount of buyers. So supply and demand is pretty equal. And that's keeping the values where they were, so people aren't losing values on their homes if that's what they're worried about. So that's the main summary of it. And we'll see if it upticks more in May. It seems like right now it's starting to uptick a little bit more in the showings. But typically April is like a huge booming month for sales for us. But yeah, it's a down month for sales just as people are adjusting.
And do people contact you concerned that like they shouldn't be going out, and you have to have conversation with them to explain some of the things that they can do right now? What's the mentality of people that you're coming in contact with? Because I know you talk to a lot of people. Yeah.
So I reach out, obviously, past customers, people we know very often, and I post a lot of videos. There's content on YouTube. Some of the videos that we share out in our blogs, and it doesn't show how many people viewed them, and some people might find them on YouTube. So I've done a ton of content on this, and that's one way I get the message out. As far as past customers who I proactively reach out to, sometimes they have questions like, no, I'm not in the market anyway. There's people I'd say that were, for lack of a different word, leads that come in throughout the year, like requesting real estate information. And then on my reach back out, many people are on hold. So I'd say a lot of people who weren't certain about moving. In the business, we like to call them tire kickers. They're pulled out. But people who are serious, like I said, the people we talked to before, planned on buying and selling, they just moved forward, and wasn't a concern. Other than they are concerned, like, is the market going to go down? And should I buy now? Should I wait? And honestly, if you talk to the wrong realtor, they'd give you the wrong advice. And I feel solid and confident in my advice, but I'm sure there's other realtors giving different advice, and they might be, it would be bad to give people wrong advice. Like we saw somebody, I think a Minnesota a realtor on his Facebook page post like, a couple months there's going to be all kind of foreclosures because of this. That would not make any sense. Just so you know, if you live in Minnesota and own a house, it takes 12 months for a foreclosure process, and the bank normally doesn't list them for another 4 months. So maybe in 18 months, those houses would be out there. But also, if people are getting unemployment and can pay their bills during this time, they're not going to leave their house. Like they're not letting go. So there's not going to be a lot of Minnesota currently because of this, because these are staying up, and a lot of people are still getting an income one way or the other. Maybe the commercial real estate will be hurt if business owners don't pay their leases or, sell their properties or lose their business. That could be, commercial could go down, but residential, I wouldn't be so worried about losing the value. And I wouldn't be so excited that, hey, maybe finally it'll go down and I'll be able to buy a house in 6 months or 12 months, because it doesn't seem like that's going to happen currently. So there's people who have different ideas on this. So
I want to go back briefly to the term tire kicker. So the first time I ever heard that, or we probably heard that, was on the farm. Our dad would often be selling something would be parked in front of the barn for sale. And people would come over and they'd be classified as a tire kicker because they just want to come over and see how much someone wants for something. So do all realtors use that term, or is it just former farmers like you?
Probably former farmers. I don't know. If there's another real estate agent out there listening, they can type and see if they use that term and if they were a farmer or not. It could be something else. But so what we started to do, to say one other adjustment, when people came in, like we have all kind of websites and people call about properties. We were way more diligent and pre-qualifying, whatever way it is. Like we won't just run out and show anybody a house. We like to ask questions, but basically say, no, the sellers don't want you in the house unless you're like really 100% you're going to be buying a house. And one way of knowing that is, are you pre-approved? Oh, not pre-approved. I just want to kind of look. Well, we'd say we won't do the showings. I think that's changed a little bit. I think some realtors are not doing that. We're doing that because over the years of doing this, like it has helped us to meet some people. You get face-to-face and meet people like, oh, I like that Michelle, Michelle, our sister, or Stacy on my team, or Chuck, they seem nice. I'll work with them in 3 months, 6 months when I'm going to buy. So it does help to get face to face. It just, to us, it's not essential to show a house to somebody who's buying in 6 months. So we're going to have to take our chances that maybe they call us. But chances are there's somebody out there, one of those Yahoo realtors. I'm just kidding. I tease realtors. that'll take them and maybe they'll just stick together. But they really shouldn't be showing houses to people who are just not going to buy now. I get some people need to look to know, but if you in your mind are like, I just want to look, I might buy later. Yeah, those people shouldn't be looking now while we're in stay at home for sure. But some of them are, and they call us all the time and every day.
But you've been in the business long enough to kind of sift through that as you
yeah.
If someone does want to leave a comment, that you'd have to do that from the People I Know Show's live feed. I know I shared it, I think on a watch party to my page, and you might have done something similar to yours. So for the comment, for me to see it right now and put it on the screen, which we have the capability of doing, you'd have to do that from the actual People I Know Show page. And while you're there, if you haven't already, you can like the page. Chuck, let's get back to the pivot, progress, and prosper. There's been some things that, even with this, like the live video, this is, for instance, one of the pivots I've made with this ongoing podcasting project. I've been integrating video now for months, but I really hadn't done live videos because there's an extra barrier there that before I thought I'd probably better just to pre-record it and then put it up later. But now I realize by doing this now with you and us sharing it to our personal pages, it's going to catch a couple people. So the person right now that's tuning in right now that would have never maybe listened to a podcast the old-fashioned way, I realize I can put up a live video, a live one every once in a while. And so that's been a pivot for me. And even with this today, I still plan to do more things. And we were having a conversation yesterday. And one of the things we've done as a family, knowing that we're kind of all just at home all the time, we're connecting once a week and continuing to work on our personal growth and different things. And And it seems like every week so far, there's been a different person that's had the bigger issue. I didn't realize that I had an issue, but it seemed like yesterday when we were talking about this and what I'm doing with my podcast right now, maybe I do. And I think that can relate back to everybody. We're all doing what we're doing right now. And a lot of it works and some of it maybe doesn't work that well. But I think sometimes we get inside of our own heads and we maybe need to bounce some ideas off of other people that might help us pivot to the next thing.
Well, I think, there's several things to pivot on. Like there's certain things, we each do well and like we're trying to improve. And then when you're improving there's something else you're not doing to get better. So to do, and you're trying to make it work, but there's obviously only so much time in the day. So you don't want to start and try to do 10 pivots. Like that's a traveling in basketball. Traveling, you want to do like one pivot or two, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I come up with this stuff. That's the downside of doing a live video with me. I'll normally say 2 or 3 things that are like not, that are, maybe I probably shouldn't say, and then I don't mind it, but there's probably somebody that I could offend out there. Maybe I won't do that today, except if there's a Yahoo realtor out there, they got offended. They don't know that. So they're like, hey, I'm great.
You mentioned basketball, and I think it was last week. So we had the call. We're talking about me, different things with my podcast, the way I'm using my time. I have way more time right now than I normally have. And I'm using some of it very effectively, I think, and some of it less effectively. Your oldest son, Chase, he had his basketball season. His team was about to start in the state tournament, and then the season was canceled. And now it would be baseball season, but there's no baseball season. So thinking of individuals like athletes, and our nephew AJ as well, both of them have been on previous episodes of the podcast. They and the kids and the college athletes, the professional athletes are a great example that can, I think, bring back to all of us that right now their seasons aren't happening. And I guarantee you some of the individuals are still working really, really hard so that when the season happens again or their next season, they will still be in prime condition and they'll be ready to go. And there's going to be some of them that are just hanging out, not doing as much, because that's a trap we can all fall into when suddenly something changes and maybe we feel bad about ourselves or something. That happens. It happens to me. It happens to everybody. I totally get it. But I think it's to recognize it, that when you're in that situation and try to pull yourself back out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I think when you're talking about pivots, progress, prosper, I don't know what people are doing, and that's where if there are people listening or they watch a recording of this when we post it, it'd be cool to hear a couple comments to get some interaction, because it'd be cool to hear if somebody feels like, yes, I'm doing a pivot, meaning I'm changing what I do to make my life a little bit better, even though there's things that are challenges and struggles and I don't like, or something got taken away from me. So when you look at athletes, you look at our nephew, Ashton, who is a great football player, recruited, a very recruitable football player. We know he's out there working. He's lifting weights every morning. He should. I don't know his exact schedule. He's doing what he needs to do agility wise or strength wise. He's working on it hard. And then like my son, Chase, who's is a good athlete, a good kid, not as superior as AJ is. He loves baseball. That's his favorite sport. So it's kind of sad it's done. Like the basketball team won the section, was going to be state 4A. Probably wasn't going to win state, but I felt like they could win a 1 or 2 game, whether that would be lose the first game and win the next 2 and win consolation, or win a game, surprise somebody and, take 3rd or 4th place. Like they were playing really well towards the end of the season. They had a great team, and then one superior player that was just super fun to watch. And that was kind of sad. I got pulled out. He just played when they're up by 30 at the end of the game. So he wasn't like one of the main players on it. But baseball is more as a sport. So he's been working like 8 hours a day on his grandpa's farm, which is good. So that's a pivot for him. Like he's doing his schoolwork, distance learning. He's taking college courses, doing it online like the students are. And instead of sitting around playing video games like my 8-year-old is now, which is, I guess, a good babysitter. So, but he's playing with his cousins and I don't know, maybe some randos that we don't know. But normally it's people he knows. He's doing that. And I do try to get him out. We did I'm bouncing back and forth. He did 20 jumping jacks, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups with me this morning. We did that yesterday. Then we went for a 20-minute walk run. So the little guy did get out. We're getting him some exercise, but at 8, he's different. So my son's working all day, doing schoolwork. And then like a couple times a week, like last night when it was night, we went to the baseball field. He went by himself for a while, he's got a tee, a couple nets, does some hitting drills. And I went out there to catch him and pitch and help him where I could help him. And I'm like, isn't there other kids that you can play with? I want to do that, but I also don't want to do that. Meaning I like my wife could always, talk to more people to make sure we're getting enough business. So I want to do that, but I also like, where's the other kids? Like, I don't think anybody's doing anything. So to answer, that's a long-winded answer to your question. I think a lot of kids are not doing anything, which is kind of sad. That's one of the sad things about this. If they're not in a structured, organized thing, I think a lot of kids are taking it easy, and certainly some are working on getting better. But I think the majority of kids, just like the majority of people, when things get ripped away, they don't do much, and that's not a pivot. A pivot would be finding a way to make the usage of the time you got and get better.
And I think we all are allowed opportunities to relax and enjoy ourselves and mentally reset. And as for me, I think I've done enough of that. I've been off of work now for 5 weeks or something, a long time. And I feel as the time keeps passing, I just want to use it in different ways, more effectively, and just keep on getting better at something. And I'm certainly like, yeah, you're mentioning Chase. He's in school, but not in school, but working all the time. There's a lot of people who have no extra time right now. In fact, like you, I think you mentioned to me previously that your time is just being spent differently. Like Lucas, the 8-year-old, you're now homeschool teacher for a part of the day, most days or every day. So there's people right now that are working their job still and suddenly are also teachers. So I keep that in mind totally. I have way more time than normal. Some people have way less time than normal. But if it's not right now, there are times in our lives where things happen. Like for me, and I guess for you personally, the pandemic hasn't hit me hard in some way because, like for us, we're not damaged too much. I know the world is, a lot of people are, but I tend to think there are going to be times in my life when something awful happens to me or to someone else. And when that happens, that's when I'm going to allow for whatever I need to do to deal with it. In times like right now where I know what's happening, but for me, not really, then I need to use this time well, because at some point I'm going to lose time to some traumatic thing that might happen to someone. And I know that's a part of life.
Yeah. You're right with not everybody has more time now. Some it's, but you can also obviously get sucked in and doing things that don't benefit you. And it's not for us to say what's good for you, what's bad for you. I haven't been a person who relaxes a lot. I can name like 10 things my wife gets upset at me about. One of them is that like I'm normally always working or doing something, and I don't, even that I'm on social media, I have profiles, you see me post stuff. I'm not on there like going through a whole lot of stuff to see what's happening in the world. I just kind of plug away because it's just hard for me to keep up. Yes, the homeschooling thing's been a little bit frustrating, but I think we're starting to get, last week I thought we had a dial, and then Lucas was a bear cat or something vicious early in the week. And then now he figured out like, okay, daddy's not going to let me do what I want unless I get my stuff done. Then he flipped the switch and like, okay, like I'm going to do this really well and as fast as possible. And then I'm going to get to go do what I want to do. And then it goes better. And then I'm doing this. And well, he's doing what he wants to do right now. So, so to kind of open it up on your end, you've got a lot of stuff going on to improve your podcast or get to know different things about your podcast. And this is your third time you did one of these lives, right?
Yeah, live to Facebook. I previously dabbled a little bit on YouTube with people that were already like professional YouTubers, basically. But on Facebook, I decided to bring it over here and try it differently. And each time trying to do a little bit better and learn from it.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about people have more time, there's less outside of the house entertainment to do. You can't go to a restaurant. You can maybe go to some of the parks and walk around. You can't go to a sporting event, and there's all kind of things you can't do. So people's entertainment could come from something like this. And things like this, I think are, hopefully we're interesting or funny or enough people know us, like, oh, let's see what they say. But I don't know, I know some people are more in the news than I am, and I don't watch the news much. And I haven't even looked at it for a few days because it just seemed for a while, I'd check it for like 9 minutes and be all the same stuff. I'd go to CNN, go to Fox News and see what they're both posting. Like that's, I don't think that's where people, I get they do what they do to get people to watch it. Like, people should probably get their media from each other, from what's really happening in the world, instead of having other entities dictate their mindset. That's why when I talked about all the stuff I do mentally, emotionally, spiritually to kind of build my mindset, you can't have one of them, as much of them. Otherwise, it's going to be harder. And I think this kind of media, which we're doing now, you get to know people and you can find out what's really happening. Like, if somebody was on there earlier or watched the recording, was wondering about real estate, they could talk to 10 different people and get 10 different answers. Now, they may not know who to trust, but they could, if they really wanted to, they can look up, numbers, statistics, reviews on us, and then look up one of their buddies that doesn't do much business and feel like, that guy probably knows what he's talking about more. But at least they have different feedbacks to try to make their own decision based on their situation and intuition. Where if you just watch the news media, they would post pending sales down 30%. People think, well, that means houses are down 30%. No, that just means less people went, listed and sold and are moving, which makes sense. Why would, it's only down 30%? That's not bad when you're supposed to stay at home. So that's one thing I wanted to, I don't know, it just came to me. I shared it.
Thank you. Something that came to me is, I think we all are at risk of being very inactive with, like, we have an idea, but then we don't do anything about it. I just noticed myself on the screen again. Like, my hair has not been this short in 15 years at least. And hair salons have been closed for coming up on 5 weeks, maybe something like that, at least in Minnesota. I know in a lot of places. And it wasn't like I desperately needed a haircut, but for the first time in ages, I had the thought, like, maybe this is a good time to shave my head. The problem was that thought stuck with me for almost a week. And every time that thought came back to me, I had to, like, think about it, the pros and the cons. Why should I do it? What if it looks awful? Or whatever, the things that I was concerning myself with. And I realized I'm going to do it at some point. I
think you look a little more badass with the short hair. So you should have did it earlier.
I should have done it earlier. That's the other thing about it is I'm very pleased that, this is actually a style I could wear in the future. But the point is, and me rambling on about the point, I think serves as a good point as well. When we think about doing things and we just keep thinking about it, and keep thinking about it, and keep thinking about it, and every day think about it, that's time wasted. I ended up shaving my head anyhow. I could have just made the decision and been done with it, and it would have happened a week earlier, and I wouldn't have had to, like, spend time debating to myself whether or not I should do it. And that was just a good reminder to me that I need to decide and do. I need to take action. And for some reason, that took me too long to just do it.
No, that makes sense. So one of the things, and I'm sure we can jump around on pivot, progress, prosper. So years ago, like when pretty much right after I got divorced, into working with Remax, and then into like the market shift back then when real estate did go down, like real estate led the recession back in 2008, basically. I got into, like personal development way more, spiritual growth way more, those kind of things. And years ago, when I did that, I wanted to learn it. I was applying it. It went all right. Like even that years ago, back 2008, when I was just really getting going in real estate and things went down, I actually year over year got better. Most years other than like 2010 and 2011 were a little tricky. And I attribute a lot of that to the things I picked up on doing more now again, that personal growth, spiritual development type of thing. And there was years ago, I wanted to have classes on it and, speak on it, do speaking on it and all kind of things. People get those kind of ideas. And it's just like every time it would come up like, nah, who's going to listen to me? And I don't have it all figured out. My life's still not that, it's a little bit of a mess yet. Here's not working well or whatever. And I just always kind of like retracted every time. And then just recently, like my main pivot, I think I've done this whole time, is recently I started getting up like at 5 a.m. I was resting a little bit. I sleep till like 7 a.m. before. I'm like, oh, if I'm going to get everything done, get Lucas on track, I got to get up at 5. And we work out now at like 6:30 as a family. We may even mention that. So I wanted to get it done before working out. I basically got a journal from Darren Hardy. He's a well-known, I don't know, speaker, author, personal development guy, very, very into like goals and stuff. I got his journal, wrote out a bunch of goals. Some of them are quarterly, monthly, and I've been reviewing every day. Like, okay, what am I doing? What am I not doing? So I do that. Then I have like a book I read that's along my spiritual development journey, and I read it, and then it's like what I'm going to do each day. I've been doing like 2, like I'm almost writing my own devotionals. Like I read a devotional every day on my own that somebody else wrote. Like I'm going to write my own based on kind of what I'm reading, what's going on, how I'm feeling, that I think would help people. And I just started doing that, like putting some stuff to pen and paper. I don't know, I've got like 12 days down or something. And then I thought, well, if I ever wanted to, I do videos a decent amount of time, quick on whether it's about real estate on the real estate page or sweaty Chuck videos on my personal page or other videos. I've been doing other videos. I thought, well, why don't I actually have this content more written out? So if I ever want to pull from one, I just have it written out. Then if I ever wanted to do an actual course, I would have all this stuff written out. I wouldn't have to rethink it. I could, like, in 6 months to a year from now or 3 months, I would have material ready to go. So one of my pivots is doing that. And the progress is each day writing some stuff out that I may use to teach, share. Who knows? It might be a devotional book someday. And I'm just sharing this now. Nobody even knows. My wife, I told her, but she doesn't really listen to what I'm saying. So she'll hear this and be like, you never told me about that, but which I did. But I'm just starting that process, doing something and everybody has this, like, doubt it I would ever do. Like, who cares? Who would care? But I'm doing it for myself. Like, when I reread what I wrote, like as a devotion, I'm like, this is pretty good. Like, I should read that. I should do it. Like, it's good. Like, it's good for me. And then it's like, well, if I do this consistently, I'll actually have material to actually use if I ever wanted to teach the course like I thought about 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, I think a lot of our ideas end up tying together if we can find a way to put them together. And I totally relate to what you're saying. For one of the things on my wall, on the wall over here, I have Post-its because these are things that I want to do. And like a daily journal that someone told me, and so I guess I should do it now since I'm talking about it. Like, just, I could do instead of, if I don't feel like writing a daily journal, I could record it, like just record my thoughts, and then they're there. And then I could repurpose those in some other way. If they're actually a good thought, maybe one turns into a podcast, maybe one turns into a blog post. Maybe I start implementing those onto Instagram or Twitter, whatever I feel like using it, or I never do, but at least it like exists. I'm capturing my thoughts at a certain time, and maybe there is use for that in the future. And I think we all have so much to give. And for me, before the podcast, I was afraid of like talking and telling my story. And now I don't concern myself with that anymore. And there's a hurdle, there's a box, there's a hump, whatever we want to climb over or get out of. And it's important to just, once you cross over, it seems to just come easier.
Yeah. And I think the hurdle for me on doing this little thing I shared, which is something that was on my mind years ago, and I'm like, never mind, wasn't that I'm worried if I ever share it with anybody, or if I ever teach a course. It's like, if I were to teach a course, the only way I could ever do that if I actually had the content down in advance. I couldn't like come up with it and spend like 50 hours preparing for it, a month ahead of time. I'd have to do it over time and just be ready for it. So for me, it was like, it's at worst, it's helping me grow. It's kind of like journaling. And at best, I got material if there's a need. Because with what's happening in the world and what might happen 7 years from now or 2 years from now or whatever different thing that happens, there's going to be skills needed that just aren't out there as much as they're needed. So what skill, desire, value do you think you can bring to the world that you've been prepared for? Because opportunity only comes if you're prepared. And it's like, well, yeah, I know that. So I should actually be prepared for the opportunity that's probably more on my heart. Like somebody else's thing is different. And that's why you got to be ready for it. And most people don't put in the work. They just want the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the results results sound nice, but every day that I'm working on something new as I'm staying at home, it's like some of this really takes some work, and it feels good though to accomplish something. And I think that's a human feeling that most people, a lot of people, everybody can feel, is like, I did that. And that was something I can be proud of, that I've actually pushed forward and accomplished this thing.
Yeah, and I think some of the downside of it, like a social media or stars on YouTube or whatever, is you see that these young people or whoever in a year or 2 years built up a following. You think it's going to take to be a star. But I know YouTubers have done to get there quick. They probably only have taken a few years. But like if you're a professional athlete, you've probably been working on that. Most of them, since they're a little kid, that was your best thing. You always played more than the other kids. And for 15, 17 years, it was your favorite thing to do. You worked on it. So by the time you got old enough, you could be the best at it 17 years later when it was your time to get drafted or get a scholarship or whatever. Most people don't realize it actually does take 13 to 20 years of real work to get where you want to go on some of these other things that aren't publicized. Just your normal getting better. It takes a while, which probably is discouraging when I tell somebody it takes a long time. but if you actually look into it, most people successes actually come way far into trying things that work, don't work, failures, falling down, getting back up, failing again, and finally, because they were consistent, learned, growed, and advanced, and then they finally get where they want to go.
I think the word is obsessed or obsession. The individuals that, many of them that end up being like the greatest in the world at something, they've just been obsessed for years. They're naturally gifted in some ways, but it is their obsession to keep getting better and to be the best. And that's how they get there. Chuck, I want to transition to, as I'm thinking about us and some of the funny things that we're involved in, because I did promise some more laughs. So here, there's probably a difference between me and you and me and a lot of people. I've recognized one of the opportunities that I've taken advantage of I travel a lot normally, once every month, once every couple months, is one of the ways, or the two ways that I realize that I'm able to do that is I have pretty affordable rent. My renting situation is pretty low. And then also when I travel, I tend to stay places that are like very affordable. And that's just the way I do things. I think if I can sleep for cheap, I get to do so much more. I did some math earlier. I figure between, if I would feel like I need my own nice apartment and have that myself, or have my own house, compared to my situation now, which is actually pretty good. And if I'd stay in nice hotels when I travel, I'd be spending $10,000 a year or more on all these things, which some people they can do that if they have the money, fine. I feel like that 10,000 goes to all my travels and everything else that I do. And I really like that strategy for myself, and maybe someone else can pick up on that as well. But when it comes to you traveling with me, like, this is my habit. I'll find an Airbnb. This place looks pretty nice, good reviews. So we've now gone on 3 Minnesota Vikings road trips. And more recently, we went to a Michael Bernoff event, just you and I together, got an Airbnb. So I think maybe 4 times we've gotten Airbnbs together, and maybe I've picked them out every time. Thinking back, 3 times you and I shared a bed, and some of the times the bed hasn't been that big. And one other time we each ended up in like single twin beds. So
like for 7-year-olds.
Yeah, 7-year-olds. So I can sleep anywhere.
6'5" plus.
I forget. I'm kind of selfish in that way. Like, okay, I can sleep anywhere. This will be fine. So I asked Chuck, is this okay? And maybe you're too kind in those moments. You just say, yeah, you'll deal with it. But you are 6'5" and a much bigger guy, and probably don't sleep as easy everywhere. So which of these Airbnbs was the toughest for you?
I don't know. I can adapt. A lot of time, I mean, we're only going for a couple days, so we do enough activities during the day that I probably sleep better, or either walking far or using our mind. And it's like, okay, I'm tired. I'll sleep. So I'm capable of sleeping in those things, but yeah, it wouldn't be my favorite. When we stayed in Los Angeles in those little kids' beds, basically, that was probably the worst one. The ladies there, and she was fine, but her house was a mess. And it had a pool, so that was nice. It was not too far from the stadium. That was okay. So I see what you picked. I wasn't complaining, and it looked nice, online. But it was one of those like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. So it worked out fine though. We survived.
It worked okay. Yeah, that sometimes you got to do a lot of research. I thought that was closer to the stadium than it was, and the photos didn't show the hoarder that she was living there. And whatever. Yeah. We survived it, and we had a fun time out there.
Pittsburgh, I think that was fine. I think the bed was bigger there, and we were right down the road from the busing or whatever train thing you took in. I thought that was cool. I mean, to me, that was like the first time I stayed at Airbnb, and I thought, okay, I could do this again. So that one wasn't too bad. It was a nice old house and worked fine.
Occasionally,
did I freeze or you freeze, Curt?
You're freezing. I'm waiting for you. Maybe you think that I'm freezing too.
Okay. Well, hopefully the audio comes through, but I'm sure the videos like me still shots every once in a while. So
the people that make these video and audio streams, they do a good job of, or I don't know if they build it in this way, but every time you freeze, at least to me, then like your voice goes really, really fast after to catch up to the video. So it's pretty slick. We just I'd be patient and then you come through.
Yeah. So, and then the last one we stayed at was a nice house, nice area, but that was the smallest bed. Basically, I was, when we go to Bernoffs, I sleep well. So it works fine because it's go all day mentally, normally exhaust you in a good way. But yeah, we were pretty much, I couldn't even sleep that close to my wife, Curt. So, and I sleep in that close to you.
Well, in the future, we can do something different. You can definitely just tell me they don't want to share a bed with me.
But at least you're not like Lucas. Lucas is like, I did a speech years ago. You might remember it, Kung Fu Lucas. If he doesn't much come in our bed, but he's 8 years old. Sometimes he will. He'll sleep upside down. He'll kick us in the head. He'll like land on our midsections. He'll lay on top of us. Now that's horrible. And now he's like a huge kid. So
when I'm sleeping next to someone like you, I don't know that I really move at all. I don't want to. I just want to like take my space and I sleep, and it works out okay for me. I'm going to put something on the screen here, Chuck, because we mentioned Michael Bernoff a few times. We'll see if this works. Oh, I don't know if it's working. It'll pop up in a moment if it does. Yeah, it does.
And for the listeners who are listening to the recording after this, what do they do?
Yeah. So theactioncall.com, that's what Michael Bernoff has been promoting for weeks. And I know I've gotten a few people to go to theactioncall.com and do his call to action, which I did for the first time several years ago. And that was, we talked, and we did a previous podcast episode way back, episode 2 for me. This is episode 74, I think, where I've been in Toastmasters now for the last 3 years, working on my public speaking, trying to be aware of my speech patterns and how I can be more effective or be more entertaining or any combination of those things. And that was one of the things. Also, I ended up volunteering for a couple of years. I don't do it anymore for the time being, but I got into volunteering because I took this call to action. Normally it costs hundreds of dollars, but as a way to, as they pivot it at the Human Communications Institute, they're doing this for free. Like every week or two, it's 5 days in a row, just on your phone, an hour or so each, either morning or night. I think they may have changed it a little bit, but go to that website and theactioncall.com as a way to promote something that's obviously been a very important thing to us, is getting involved with our personal growth. And maybe there's all kinds of ways to do that, but the one that we found together and shared as a family is working with Michael Bernoff and his organization.
Yeah. Yep. I've done that twice and it's helped me. You mentioned volunteering and going to Toastmasters. I would say that's stepping outside of your comfort zone. Typically, you have to do something you don't really want to do or step way outside of your comfort zone when you're doing a pivot. If you don't have to, that's fine. But a lot of times, it's not even really the stepping out of the comfort zone is the actual thing. It's to get you to now be better at just doing other things that are uncomfortable. So that was one of the big things I got out of it. A few years ago when I did it, is doing things outside of my comfort zone, outside of my routine and just trying them and playing around and having fun with it.
And you build on your past experiences. Like those are the two things I directly did in the weeks following the call to action that I did a few years ago. But the podcast came from that, and other things I've done came from that. And it was just that little push that I needed to start doing things that maybe I'd considered, but was too afraid to do. So it's great for me. And the fact that he's offering it free to basically whoever can sign up, then I do it. If you have any interest in personal growth, go to that website, theactioncall.com, and check it out. A little information there and sign up. Totally free, no strings attached. So absolutely do that. It's NFL draft night tonight, Chuck. So I figure we can talk about that briefly. Not that either one of us, I don't think, follows it closely anymore, but it's relevant to the world that we're in. Like, there's not been live sports in this country for 4 or 5 weeks now. And there might be, I think in June, PGA Golf's going to start. But the biggest moment in American sports it's normally one of the bigger things of the year, but right now it's probably gonna be so huge tonight. It's going to be all the coaches and GMs from their own basements or whatever they're doing. So that'll be interesting to see a little bit of that, how they do that with so many people and teams involved. But the NFL draft is happening, but that's about it because no live sports. And for me, Chuck, if anyone did, you got me into sports years ago, and I love all sports. I watch a lot less now than I used to, but I'm finding I'm okay. Like, I'm not in control of anything, but if there's no sports for a while, to me, that's okay, because it's one less distraction, so I can focus my time elsewhere, and then I'll enjoy sports again later whenever they come back.
Yeah, I think we talked the other day. I haven't missed, I'm a big sports fan all my life, huge sports fan. And then, when you get kids like I have, you're watching their sports, and that kind of takes precedence over the other sports. And then my wife wants my time, and if I watch sports instead of spend time with her, like she lets me know about that. So over the years, I've not watched as much sports, but it's my choice. And now I'm not actually missing it too much. I thought the Twins would win the World Series this year. Maybe they'll have a season. That was going to be my pick. I was going to pick that, and then it's like, well, this happened, and there was nothing to pick yet. I just thought some things were lining up. The Astros were having, whatever they're going through with their cheating. The Yankees had a bunch of pitchers hurt, and their hitters keep getting hurt. And I thought, gosh, we made some sneaky little moves that don't seem great. But if somehow, and we have young players, they got a little bit better, and some of the other guys stayed the same, and the pitchers got a little bit better, we'd be really good. So I miss the fact that the Twins would probably be good, but I don't have a ton of time to watch them. Like you said, I have split season tickets with the Timberwolves. I was getting sick of going to those games. They were just horrible. Lucas loves to go, and I love to go, but it just is just. And I thought about watching the draft tonight, and I thought, gosh, I haven't watched sports forever. I should watch the draft. I don't know if I will, just because I signed my wife up for an extra job, and she's at the job today, so I won't see her till later, and I want to spend time with her. So I probably won't watch that. But yeah, I haven't missed them that much. I will be glad when they're back, but just when you prioritize the kids' sports and other things you're going on, it is busy. There's a lot of stuff to do out there, a lot of choices.
And even though it's so different right now, no sports, you can fill that time. We're always going to fill the time with something. There's 24 hours of the day, regardless. We're filling it with something when something goes away. So let's circle back to the pivot, progress, and prosper. I think we spent a lot of time talking about pivot, and I think alluding to progress and prosper. But is there anything else involving either one of those two that you wanted to point out here as we get close to the end, and that we get into the being wrong segment here in just a few moments?
Yeah. So hopefully we gave a couple examples of pivoting, and it'd be cool again if people watch this video on YouTube in the future, or when we tag it to Facebook, comment now about what you've done to pivot. There's no right answer here. Just a little change of direction you've done to keep things going, or to feel better, or get healthier. I mean, a little, I guess, pivot we've done as a family. I mentioned it before, about 6:23, we're getting on Zoom. By 6:30, Curt, my sister Michelle, myself, my wife Melissa, and Chloe's joined us. The other kids haven't. We kind of like live video workout. We do our own workouts, but we're working out together. And that was to help get us up at a certain time. And that's a subtle pivot. And then the progress is you get big muscles, right, Curt? You getting big muscles yet?
A little bigger muscles. To stop overcompensating with my eating. I think that happens a little bit too.
Yeah.
For me, it's partly the exercising. I was already exercising in some ways, but to put that at the start of the day and to be done with it, to accomplish that by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning every day. That's big. And my sleep schedule is adjusting, and my normal non-stay at home life, I work overnights, and everything's kind of different right now, trying to just get onto a normal sleep pattern. But by doing this every day now for over a week, we go on Zoom. We don't like watch each other work out really, but we all know that we're there. We're counting on each other to be there. And it's important for me because especially it's on my Zoom. So I'm supposed to be the one to wake up and start the thing. It's important to have that structure. So I think for someone that's not quite doing something they want to do, maybe it's that. Maybe you do something from a distance with your family that allows you both to accomplish something you've wanted to work on.
Yeah. So then the prosper thing, which we probably haven't defined that. So for me, that's been one of my favorite words. In fact, years ago when I was talking about the thing I was talking about earlier about doing stuff, I had this website called the Prosperity Leader where I'd post a little bit to a blog, like a reason, about building your mindset. And prosperity for some people is, they hear that word and it's like, that means you're well off financially. And that's true, but it's also like a wholeness word. Like, I'm into spiritual aspects. There's a couple of my favorite scriptures mention the word prosper, but it's as a wholeness word where things in your life are better. You're living the way you want to, or on the path to living the way you want to, and accomplishing what you're meant to do. And so prosper in health would be you're taking care of yourself. You've came from where you're at currently or a few months ago to get to a different goal set point. And we know with COVID-19 going on, for the most part, healthier people are going to be less affected by themselves. If you're in good shape, it's taken down very, very few people. Now there's athletes you hear and they're struggling here and there, but if they were not in good shape and they get it, they could be worth out. So in general, you want to have a very prosperous health life that, like, if you want more years onto the end of it and be able to overcome certain situations, certain illnesses that come up, and you want to elevate your prosperity in health. And that's what we're doing when we work out. When you pivot in a business or something like that, you want to find ways to keep your economy going based on the pivot. Because for a lot of business, like if you're a restaurant, like you have to pivot. Is there a restaurant probably doing better now than before? Probably not, but there could be one that pivoted enough that is getting enough prosperity to get through this. And then the other thing is, and Michael Bernoff talks about this a lot, if you're going through this now and it's something new to you, you now want to change your active actions so that the next time something like this comes along, you are in a position to prosper. Like the next time real estate goes down, wouldn't everybody like to have lots of money to buy houses low so they're higher and then you sell them later? Yes. Or buy into the stock market when it's low. You want to be in a position, but most people aren't in that position. They're more check to check. Like you said earlier, I think you said well, Chuck and I aren't that affected by it. I'm guessing from April to June, let's say this is we'll re-unleash in July. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's say that is, I'm guessing my potential income from April to June, 3 months, probably would go down $100,000. Like literally, I'm going to lose $100,000 over what it would be if this didn't happen. Now, most people, if they said I lost $100,000, that'd be like crazy, lots of money to lose. And I still have a good attitude about it. I'm not even worried about it, but I worked hard enough and did all right where I can not earn $100,000 and still make it through it and be all right. Not where I want to be, but I can do that because I've learned from other times that it didn't go well to be a little bit better position. But then I also realized when I'm at this position now, wow, I have to tweak these things. So I'm in a different position next time. So there's a lot of stuff to understand when we have these things like COVID-19 happen. How can you get yourself in a better position for the next time this happens so you're not as affected by everything going on or whatever happens that time? And that's why you want to work on what you need to work on now and find a way to be prosperous and be able to utilize what you've learned the next time this happens or whatever it is that happens. Does that make sense? Or am I totally making it?
It makes sense because something's always going to happen. This is affecting more people at one time in ways than anything in maybe world history. I possibly, because it's a global thing that almost every country is dealing with, and it's impacting people either directly with a health reason or their finances or work or home situation. It's impacting everybody. So we're all kind of doing it at once. But when we get through it, whenever it is, when things are back to a new normal, whatever that new normal is, individually, stuff's always going to happen. So when that next thing happens to each one of us, can we sustain it? And what can we do to be prepared to get through it? And if, we can't, maybe we don't know how, that's when you need to keep on finding a way to learn, to do different, talk to people, listen, read, do the action call, whatever, because we're all in the mindset that we're currently at. And that's our average. And that's, as Michael Bernoff does, average sucks. We're all right where we're at right now. And it's okay, but it's still average. And if you just stay right where you're at, what's going to happen to us in the future is just going to keep on being similar to what's happening now. So if you're okay with what's happening now, then I guess good. But if you're not, then there's more that needs to be done.
So one of the things I used to do when I worked out at a gym, I would, when I run, and maybe I'd just walk. I don't know. I get so sweaty now, the earbuds fall out. I got to find a new system for that. But I would watch little videos on my phone for inspiration and maybe have my earbuds in. This is a few years ago. And one of the videos I'd play over and over, or quite often, I don't even know the title of it. It was like 5 minutes. I play music, show different pictures of movies, overcoming stuff. And the thing that stuck out, and I say it to Chase, and Chase repeats it back to me all the time. If you do what's hard, your life will be easy. If you do what's easy, your life will be hard. And if your life isn't going the way you want, it's because you've been taking an easier path. And then when things happen, it gets hard. If you do what's hard, your life gets easy. Like, I don't feel like I'm to the easy spot. At least I was to the spot where I can get hit hard and get back up and be totally fine. Like we were doing, we had like 9 months of really good months. So it was like, okay, I can take a couple, 2-3 months blow here. And we're back to even par, and here we go again. And then it could go longer. So then you have to be ready to pivot on other things too. So the thing is, most people don't want to do what's hard, the extra work. I'm not even saying people should do it, because it is kind of hard. Like getting up at 5 a.m., going through my goals, then reading an inspirational book, then getting my own inspiration, and writing down stuff that nobody may read, or several weeks from now, I may post a video on and 13 people will watch and somebody will give me the middle finger. I don't know. But I'm just doing it for myself. And then we're doing a workout. And then it's like distance learning with Lucas. And then I'm calling a bunch of people and trying to make sure we have a decent amount of business going with everything going on. And then there's something I forget. And normally it's my wife reminding me that I need to spend more time with her. And then I'm like, I gotta get better at that. Yeah, when am I gonna get better at that? So, we all got our stuff, and we need to work at it, and I guess we need to limit distractions. I think the big thing about COVID, like entertainment's kind of distraction, and a lot of the entertainment's been ripped away, but it hasn't affected me much because I don't do entertainment that much. So I know you want to laugh on this, Curt, but I'm not very funny. I just kind of do it and work hard and don't do fun stuff like you do. Although I do have one funny story I'll share for fun if you want me to at some point.
Yes, let's do the being wrong segment, then we'll close with your funny story. So
okay.
Is there, since episode 2, that was October of 2018, you appeared, and then you were a cameo when Chase, your son, was on with me. That was last June when we did the Spartan race. What can you add? I know you've listened to many or most or all of my podcast episodes. What's something now that you're looking back that you were wrong about, you changed your mind about, that sharing that particular story? You think?
Do you remember my being wrong the first time? What was that about? Did you listen to that?
I do kind of remember. It was like judging other people based on just observing people and being kind of negative about, because you don't know what's going on in their life.
Yeah,
Can't use
correct.
that again.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to bring that up. I've gotten better at that. I'm not perfect at that, but that's a big one. I would say the biggest thing that I was wrong about, that's what I'm making the adjustment now, is even with doing all this personal development, spiritual development, I could still have a negative mindset. So that's not, I'm wrong about what other people are doing. I'm wrong about how I was handling, like, so the reason I'm more prepared for COVID-19 and some off months is because a little over a year ago, we had like several off months. It was just bad. And what I realized is my mindset wasn't where it needed to be, even that negative self-talk. And probably that was, around the time when I shared, not judging other people. So a lot of times what I would catch myself doing, and what a lot of people do, is you're doing the work to improve during doing the work to improve segment of your day, but then you go on your rest of the day and do the normal way of being, or your old way of being, way more often than you want to. So I think that just takes time for some people to get traction. Some people can do it right away and it goes well. So to make it more clear is, like, even that now I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and then working it out at 6:30. I've got it more. I'm working on it. I've got it more dialed in that it's just a natural part of my DNA now. Maybe not natural because I'm almost reprogramming myself. If you talk about reprogramming, that doing the work is not the same. Doing the time in the studies, going to the class is not the same as being the class, being the material, practicing the material. So what you learn personally, spiritual development, workout wise, you have to also continue to be that during the day, more often than not, instead of just, okay, I did that part, I put that book down, I read about something, and then you go on and be a dickhead. So now, just so you know, my wife would probably say still a dickhead sometimes, but I'm better at most things, and I feel like my mindset's way higher. Like, I think if this happened a year and a half ago, I'd be like out of the business or something. It would be really bad. So it takes a lot of awareness to understand my whole thought process. So what I was wrong about would probably be how I approached personal and spiritual development before, and how I segmented it out and then went about my day, and some days just forgot about it. I made it more part of my, minute to minute, moment to moment experience now.
So you're saying, even though you've made a point to get really good at these things and work hard at it, you're wrong about thinking that it's going to come easy all the time, and you're wrong about not keeping it a priority as often as you could.
Yeah, I would say so. It doesn't come naturally for me. None of this stuff comes naturally for me. I've had to do it. So I've had to basically, okay, so they say, and you go all over the world, right? And you don't know different languages, right? But if you had to live somewhere for years, you'd know the language. If you just do it in a classroom for an hour in your Spanish class, and then do it a couple semesters and then go away and don't practice it, it's gone. That's not that extreme. But if I just practice writing gratitudes out for 10 minutes and then go around doing the opposite of writing gratitudes, or if I practice read something that's really good, I'll do that some other time and just go about, I read that book about goals. I read that book about improving my business. I read that book about improving my health. I did the video. I did one workout. Like you have to make it part of your being, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying I wasn't trying to do that. I think it's something that I thought I had it more figured out than I did. Like, hey, I'm this guy who does all this stuff, so I'm farther ahead. But I probably might have been a little bit farther ahead, but it really wasn't. It had to be more part of me. So I know that's a weird being wrong segment. That's the only thing that came to mind, because you asked me earlier, I couldn't think of anything, and then I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm really wrong about how I did this. Not in a negative way, in a way that it probably just slowed down my progress.
What you're saying then is, all this talk about this positive self-growth, personal growth talk that we've been doing for most of the last hour or so, that we're still not that good at it. You're not as good as you want to be, as you think you should be. And I know I'm not, but it is a focal point.
I'm glad I
keep getting better.
I'm glad I do it. Yeah, and maybe like being wrong segment to fit the segment isn't perfect. So it's not wrong about doing it. It's just wrong about just doing it for 30 minutes and then doing your rest of the day. Like practice it throughout the day any way you can is what I'm saying. And that was probably, if I had to explain it in less than 30 seconds, that's probably what I should have said. But then I don't know if anybody got it anyway, but maybe that helped a little bit.
Hopefully. Chuck, what's this story that you were thinking about? One fun story to close, and we'll see what I think of it.
Well, this is definitely like a truly being wrong. So you travel out of the shore once a year with my wife's family, and this is a few years ago. I think she had an appointment when she was working at like Pine County or a meeting, and I'm like, hey, we'll meet you. We'll park at the casino. They probably won't tow our car because there's 24 hours and there's cars always there. So I'll just park it there. So we parked it there, did our 3-4 days up on the North Shore, stopped at a brewery on the way back, and I had a couple 13, 14, just probably a couple, I don't know, not that bad. Anyway, or at least I did. Anyway, she drove down to Hinckley, and then you have a few drinks from Duluth to Hinckley. You have to go to the restroom. So if anybody's ever been to Grand Casino Hinckley, you're going to know what I'm talking about. I think a couple people have probably done this, but especially after having a couple beers, and I'm a lightweight, it doesn't take me much. So I go in, I have to pee really bad. I go in, and the door I went in, there's like men's and women's bathroom sign, right? But it's almost like they go opposite way. So I just looked and said, men's here, and I just walked in. I'm like, God, there's a lot of stalls in this bathroom. I'm like, I must be in the wrong section, but I have to, like, there's the stalls here, and then maybe the urinals are on the other side. But I had to go bad. I just walked right into a stall. I had to go bad. So I'm going to the bathroom. All of a sudden I hear women in the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the wrong bathroom. These ladies are like, oh, I got to check out my hair in the mirror. There's only a couple in there, thankfully. So I duck down because I'm like a gigantic guy in these stalls. I probably stuck it. So I duck down, and I don't think anybody saw me. And I'm peeking out like, okay, are they going to leave? Sure enough, this little old lady comes right next to me. There's like 12 stalls right next to me. And I'm like, oh no, she's going to see my feet. So I just don't move. And I sit there. I think I sat down and sat there. So I got like size 14 feet. She must have not looked down, or, old ladies get into their gambling. And, okay. So finally she's done. No, I know what happened. She sat down, and there's somebody like at the mirror washing their hands while she sat down. That person left. I quick opened the door, sprint out, hoping before she gets out of the stall. About the time I turned the corner, she got out of the stall. There's a man in here. There was a man in here. Oh my God, there's a man in here. And I just ran straight out the door, straight to my car, drove him to Cambridge. And I didn't go back to the casino for like a year and a half because of that. Because I thought they probably have me on camera, like I'm on the wanted sign.
You're probably banned from there.
No, I went back after that. Nobody did anything after a year and a half, but
oh, that's hilarious, Chuck. Well, that's a good one to end on. I know I've accidentally walked through the door of the wrong bathroom, but I've never actually went into the stall unknowingly and then realized in the wrong bathroom.
Yes. So yes, and this long enough ago where I don't think it'll have any repercussions, but
Chuck, thanks for doing this with me today. And I will post links to all of your real estate stuff and some of the Michael Bernoff topics that we talked about, so people listening back or watching back can find some of that. And any final thoughts before we go and get back to the rest of our day?
I appreciate you watching. Definitely, I've listened to every one of Curt's podcasts but one. There's one I haven't listened to that. I haven't re-listened to mine, but I listened to him once basically. But there's only one of the 74. If this is number 74, I haven't listened to. And then a lot of times I do it when I'm driving around. So he has a lot of different unique guests, different backgrounds, and different adventures. And there's people you learn about different cultures, different ways of being, different thought processes. And it's entertaining from the standpoint of you get to meet different people and you get to open up. Like Curt's a cool guy that he has a lot of people he knows, and it's pretty cool that he has a diverse sphere of people that he talks to. So I recommend tuning into other ones even if there's not a super funny guy like me on it, which again, I could be funny if I did less work and more fun stuff like Curt. I'd be super funny if I was Curt.
I think so. You would be way funnier than you are, Chuck. Thanks, Chuck. Of
all
all
right,
the people I know in the world, today my brother was my guest. So thanks a lot.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.